Holy, this is your brain on drugs, Batman. Tiki here, and I have finished watching through all of Batman the Animated Series and a curated selection of Batman content throughout the entire DC animated universe. And alas, we have come to the last pit stop in our animated Batcave journey. Dragon, tell them why we're here.
Well, I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham, in a way. But that was the past, and we must now enter the Batman's future.
Tonight, we are talking the winning edge. Dragon, yeah, it's like this is close. I think I probably give the slight edge, unintended, to Shriek just because of all the great Conroy stuff. But I mean, suffice to say, Dragon, this episode is also fantastic. I mean, like probably one of the best anti-drug PSAs I've ever seen in a cartoon, just hands down. I think this episode has a lot of layers to it. I really like the Bruce Wayne side of things. I really like kind of seeing more of the high school dynamic. And, obviously the PSA side of things, I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about as well. I'm kind of interested to hear the backstory on that, of course. And yeah, I guess the one other note that I have, Dragon, is how the hell do we have an episode all about drugs, but there's no raves? That's unforgivable. I'm just kidding. All right, so yeah, suffice to say, Dragon, this is definitely up there with the best of the series so far for me.
All right. So, a little context on this. So, this had, I believe, if I recall, either a one or two time director. I forget if he comes back for another episode, but minimum, he's here for this one. You have Yukio, the one overseas for this one. They have Yukio Suzuki. Yukio Suzuki, this guy. At least I'm going to assume. I believe it's a guy. I'm pretty sure it's a male animator. Point being, this director was an animator on Mask of the Phantasm. He was part of this.
Okay.
They were part of the Spectrum crew. Of course, Phantasm was a mixture of Dong Yang and Spectrum, so literally the best that Batman the Animated Series had to offer. Because, as you know, it was the blue method Batman the Animated Series. It was the top tier, the A game. So they have that as you have there's your director. The writer on this was Rich Fogel, who had for this season so far he's going to do a lot more, but so far he did the episode Heroes, and from the new Batman Adventures he did Old Wounds and Sins of the Father.
Oh, okay, those are some pretty solid ones.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't as big on Heroes, but it was still pretty okay, I guess.
Let's just say his next works, like like this one onward, it's going to be
a
little more impressive. So. Studio worked in this, of course, Coco, Splash of Dong Yang, Water is Wet, you get it. So I wish I had more background as to like how exactly we get this episode, but all I can tell you in terms of what we do get. So the idea is we have a drug PSA episode with the built-in connection of Bane, in which we had a character in Batman the Animated Series who had used kind of a steroidal drug, very very famously, because the idea of Bane was huge in the '90s, so they were kind of mandated to incorporate him into Batman the Animated Series, which led to
right. It was kind of like the Venom factor.
Yeah, that's the thing, because Venom. Yeah, remember Venom.
Ironically enough, I always find that amusing that Bane and Venom kind of like they share that kind of connective tissue.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, based on that, because in the comics, what you had before the Bane character really entered the fray, you had Batman Venom, the comic, in which Batman became a drug addict for a story arc, in which he was addicted. He basically failed to save a little girl, and it really messed with him. And this doctor gave him these pills that essentially were venom. And they increased his strength, and he became dangerously unstable. And he basically weaned himself off the venom. Locked himself in the Batcave until he was detoxed. So so the idea is Venom, obviously, has always had kind of like a drug PSA component to it. So I think the pieces were there when they were looking at what can we do if we have a Teen Batman. Well, if we have a Teen Batman, now I can't say for certain if there were any mandates, because again, as you know and as I know, they were given the green light from the get go here. There were not. It wasn't really like the early years of Batman the animated series where it's like we have that one writer on staff who's like, can we have a recycling bin in the Batcave? Can we, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do an episode with the underdwellers? That kind of stuff. So we didn't quite have have that. We didn't quite wasn't quite. I don't think there was an agenda. I just think it was the logic of, okay, maybe let's do something that in the early seasons of a Batman show we would have been forced with, of like, well, we got to do a PSA episode. It's like, what if we did one on our terms? And I think this is kind of the end result. I can't say that with authority. That's what happened here, but that's what it feels like happened.
Right. It absolutely feels that way. I mean, it feels like if they were forced to do one, it was, they kind of like made the best out of it. I mean, Bane, like you said, it's kind of like a natural fit anyways, plus the high school kind of dynamics of the show. I don't know. I just think it all kind of works really well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It just feels like, well, we're in a high school set show, and if we're going to do a drug-related episode in Batman, what's the most natural, drug thing we have with Batman instead of going out of our way? Because you got to remember, there's also the thing of, I imagine as much free reign as they do have on Kids WB, so oddly enough, they could get away with the most brutal stuff. And Batman Beyond, Tiki, as a show, quite possibly the most brutal Batman show ever. Quite possibly. Not counting Harley Quinn because, in the HBO Max, because that's obviously something else entirely, but just in terms of like the actual, the DCAU stuff, possibly the darkest show they've ever done.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Which is so ironic given they tried making it the very kid-friendly Batman.
Right.
Point being, you have to imagine the logic here was, okay, another reason to do Venom is we can't have hard drugs. So we have one, it's in the future, so we can probably kind of take out the syringy kind of quality of drugs and kind of imitate. Basically, it's like the gun thing. You can't have.
I actually think the patches are a really, really inventive kind of depiction of like future drugs. I really liked it.
Exactly, because that's the thing. So basically, it's like, okay, so we have the future setting, which will help kind of take the edge off like hard drug use in the high school setting. Because again, they can say something important, but they don't have to go full tilt with it. Because then you have like the standards and practices issue of like, we can't probably. I imagine you can't depict stuff that people could get their hands on rather easily. Like he can't be stealing his mother's pills. He can't be. You can't have like like snorting cocaine. You can't be using heroin or stuff like that, because again, it would be far too hard edge for the kiddies. Even if we are allowed to scar them for life, we got to scar them for life on our terms. Anyway, so also a little side note here, a little flag to plant. This episode, the second of the 4 legit villain returns. And I say legit villain returns, I mean in terms of not just like a little like a picture on a screen, or let's just say kind of an Easter egg. More of like they've legitimately come back in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, with this, I feel like it's kind of like a half and half, right? It's like the Venom itself is definitely returning, and it is nice to see Bane. Honestly, part of me would have liked to just see Bane as the big bad of the episode. I don't know. I'm a little mixed on that, honestly. If there's one thing I'm mixed on, it's that.
Well, we'll get there. My point is, we don't have the. We're going to have some Easter eggs later on that are far more like surface level than something like this, where it's actually a plot point. That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
It's like, okay. You might have like very like we had that Joker poster in Shriek, for example. Obviously, we know the Joker's going to come back big in a major way much later, but still, it was like until that point, that was like, oh, that's a surface level Easter egg for you,
Of course.
So again, might have like a couple like that, very few, mind you, but that's it. We have the big 4 that come back. We've done Mr. Freeze. Now we've done Bane. Now there are 2 left. And I'm pretty sure you know one of those 2.
Well, Joker, right?
That's what I meant to. I guess the very return of the Joker. I think it's pretty self-explanatory who comes back.
I legitimately don't know the 4th one, so I'm curious.
Oh yeah, oh boy. Anyway.
My guess would be Selena Kyle, maybe, but we'll see.
I ain't telling. So,
I know you're not.
So again, this is yet again an exception to the rogue returning rule because of said plot twists. But again, more on that later. Okay, let's dive into it.
All right, so we start things off with a Joker gang party. They're buying some guns, kids. It's an ice cream truck full of guns. How quaint.
I love that it's disguised as an ice cream truck. And I love the puns, though.
Doesn't that just feel like something out of the Albuquerque verse?
It does. And well, it's kind of, sadly, it's kind of taken from real life. There was that, again, there's this great biopic of one that I really recommend to you. I don't know if you ever watched it or not after I recommended it to you. Did you ever see The Iceman?
No.
With Michael Shannon playing Richard Kuklinski, the hitman for the mob?
No, I never did see that. I know you told me about it.
Well, Chris Evans is in that movie as an associate of the Iceman. And he, too, is kind of like a hired... He's more of like a cleanup guy. The idea is that guy goes around in an ice cream truck as his day job. So it's like the Iceman and the Ice Cream Man are buddies. And Chris Evans is like giving ice cream to kids by day, but he's secretly transporting bodies to get rid of. It's twisted because he has the ice truck. Anyway, since the Jokers are like, I'm in the mood for something sweet. And you have Bruce Timm as the lead Jokers as J-Man, the one who looks like the most pale imitation of the Mark Hamill Joker.
Yeah.
So then we have like an arms deal, kind of an arms shipment, that it's being transported by ice cream truck. The Batman interrupts the deal. J-Man ends up blowing up all the guns, leading to like a little funny ha-ha, clown goes boom kind of joke. And then we have the supply, the arms dealer. And what am I going to tell my supplier? And of course, Terry is so quippy in this episode.
Yeah.
He's all quips, man, but they're all good quips where he batarang ropes the guy and he says, tell me how to fire sale.
Oh, God. Love it. I got to admit, Dragon, I feel like that scene was maybe a little pointless, except to set up like the Gotham black market, I guess.
Well, no, Tiki, the point of the thing was the show. Okay, yeah, he's doing stuff late at night.
Okay. Got
It's all better than just like him, it's like a little thing, a little bit of action there, pre-established. Yeah, Joker's still around. More importantly, it's like, this is what Terry's doing with this night, so we, the audience, are on his side, and we're seeing he's doing something very worthy, so it's not,
The nights aren't tough, it's the mornings that are getting to me.
I love that exchange, too. Just to really, that's the truth. Like, we do late nights all the live long day. The mornings, however, not so easy.
Sure.
So we see the dilemma here. So again, a Batman. Now, to be fair, we've seen this kind of touched on stuff like The Dark Knight, where Bruce Wayne's gonna fall asleep during the morning meetings. It's gonna happen. So Terry, he's falling asleep in class, which is not ideal. He's not.
Dragon, I don't know why, but this teacher just
he's a prick, isn't he?
Yes, but in a really funny way.
It's the fact for me. The thing that just baffles me, makes me. Initially, I'm thinking, that guy does have a point. The kid's kind of falling asleep. I've been in that position, but I think it's the matter of like he waited till the very end of class to
right.
Like that's the thing that gets me. Like really, you waited to point out at the very end where it really doesn't matter at this point. Anyway. So Terry's has fallen asleep. The teacher kind of like reads in the riot act and says like, "Oh, my lesson's not stimulating for you. Hey, here's a like a failure to perform file. Get your mother to scan it." Basically, it's like a almost like not a permission slip, like one of the assigned demerit sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's kind of interesting future technology. You know what's fucked up though is that I feel like our current 2023 technology has advanced past this.
Well, obviously, yes.
It's all done on smartphones now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, clearly.
So that's like really interesting. How it's like like this is like the '90s kind of like analog, like disc based future. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, for sure. That's something they did. They went heavy on the disc and the money being entirely on card, so they were half right.
Yeah, they were definitely half right. Yes,
it's
very much not right on the disc thing.
It's like what Robert Zemeckis said on Back to the Future too. The whole reason he's not crazy about that movie is you can only get half the future right all the time. And that's what they did. Every time you do the future, you can only get half of it right. So. Okay, so let's see. So, point being, Terry's in trouble. Dana, she says, "Oh, well," she basically tries to. They patch things up. Apparently, Bruce was right. They patched things up.
I still think Terry was a little sketch, but whatever.
Oh, he was not. Over it. The boy's saving us from
literally the moment there's trouble afoot.
Tiki, the McGinnis boy is saving us from clowns flying arms from vendors and ice cream trucks. Anyway, so the big game's Tiki, not just the game. The big game is tonight.
Is that supposed to be like a thing?
No, well, I mean, the whole big clock thing is for the big game.
Oh, got it. The big clock, the big game. Okay, yeah. All right, right.
The big game.
The big game.
The big game's tonight. That's surely gonna perk Terry up. Says, I don't know. And it's just like, come on, don't be a spud. You need some excitement in your life, which is obviously very funny because she has no idea what he's doing with his nighttime
I
stuff.
could. Did they use that line in commercials? I could see them using that line in
It
commercials.
feels like it, because yeah, remember that opening of the Poison Ivy episode from Batman Answers was probably using the marketing a lot too, where the whole like, Brucey gets his kicks and they cut between pretty much you and
Right,
Batman
right.
stuff. That whole opening of that episode was pretty much like, this is the perfect advertisement for Batman the Animated Series. I'm your worst nightmare. That whole thing. All right.
All right, so we go back to Blitzball from Final Fantasy X because that's pretty much exactly what this is.
You know what's funny? Tiki?
Convince me otherwise.
I tried looking up the names. I mean, I'll make a note of it if we ever do come across it. But to my knowledge, we never officially named this game. But I think it's supposed to be Highlight of the Future. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
That's funny. I
That's
actually really like the name Blitzball, so if we just want to adapt Blitzball, I'm fine with that.
I don't know. Point being, Terry yet again. He's falling asleep. The home team's losing, and lead player Mason, I guess, who's the team captain or something, he's getting chewed out.
Mason.
He's getting chewed out by the coach. And the fun thing about this coach, Krieger, I believe is his name. So Peter Jason does the voice of this guy, and he's been mobsters and
Peter Jackson.
No, Peter Jason.
That would be an entirely different vocal performance.
See, we have another Jackson in this episode. That's why. Anyway, so Peter Jason here.
Now, Mason, what kind of bonehead pass was that? That would be Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
Anyway, this guy's played mobsters before in Batman the Animated Series, and it's really funny when you look at this guy. I wonder if you had this too. Doesn't this guy look like Lyle Bolton?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
A descendant. It looks like he could be a descendant of Lyle Bolton. If you ask me.
Right.
All right, so you have this mean old coach is kind of chewing the kid out, and then basically, so what he's doing here is the assumption is that the coach knows what's going on, but he officially can't know what's going on. So he's basically yelling, "Give him the riot act," pressuring them to use drugs. So Mason here, he's after being chewed out, he puts on a slapper.
Yeah, the animation, man, it really is just like as far as like a substance abuse thing goes, you see like you see the clear harm it's doing to the body, but you also see kind of like the euphoric like pick me up that it gives them as well, like not necessarily euphoric, but you see like you very clearly see the effect.
Well, yeah, you see the adrenaline kind of
right. Yeah, that's more. Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like the corrupting influence of power and stuff, So it's like what if cocaine gave you superpowers? Essentially, is the idea.
Right, basically.
Where instantly this feels like a great idea, and then of course long term, oh, I feel so bad. So let's see. Anyway, so we have the he has enhanced strength, and then we see he basically body checks a player. It was a legal check, and the coach approves. But Terry kind of wakes up here. He senses something is off here, so he's walking Dana home later, which is I always like that. Like he walks Dana home. I think that's kind of nice.
I like how Dana's like she's ribbing him, but she's not really giving him that hard of a time.
Yeah, she seems to have moved past. This thing. We're going to see this a little occasionally. Where she gets ticked off that Terry kind of bails on her at times, but I think she's kind of like. She gets it a little bit more each time it happens, it feels like.
Right.
Kind of warms up to it. Anyway, yeah, so I apologize for he's REM deprived and everything. So then Bruce Wayne calls. Stuff's happening. So he's put up the new
Quick slideshows.
What?
Slideshows. You remember the slideshows?
Oh, yes, I do.
You made a whole bit out of it, Dragon.
No, I know that. Well, Tiki, when you say slideshows, I'm thinking of something we haven't gotten to yet.
Oh, God.
That's what I'm thinking. But no, you mean the slideshows.
Whatever Bruce Wayne's calling, it's slideshow exposition time, baby.
Yep. But no, that comes a little later. But yes, right now it's the sky cam. This is kind of nice that Bruce Wayne's put up more cameras in Gotham to kind of patrol things. So the sky cam's picked up a break-in at Vid City Electronics. So we have the three high schoolers that are on the team. They're robbing the place.
Including one of them who's basically the Daft Punk guy from Invincible.
The Daft Punk guy.
Yeah, Machine Head.
Oh, Machine Head, right. Oh, yeah. So we have this one guy. He puts on like this little like a visor goggle thing, and it's like basically again, here's something here for you. Precursor to VR.
Sure. A little bit.
And there was some of this tech. I remember like on the pier, I had like one of these VR goggles back in the day when this was around. So it was kind of like a precursor to this was kind of around.
On the pier, Dragon. On the pier.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so you have like the swimsuit edition of like beautiful girls in bikinis with this one thief. Anyway, so we have like then the TV camera wall. Like, every time you go to an electronics store back in the day, when you walk in, like, hey, look at all your broadcasting, a little display model TV thing. And of course, the Batman comes in with the line, 500 channels, nothing good on them.
I could see that also being another commercial line for some reason.
Well, yeah, he's talking about TV, yeah.
Right. He's like talking about TV and he's like, okay, well, there's nothing good on, but this is something good.
So we have the bolo wraps, one of them, and the idiot calls to Mason, which of course outs the guy who he is. Like, Mason, like
Mason. Am I
So
pulling Mason from somewhere, or am I literally just pulling that out my ass? When am I doing that?
yeah, I don't know why you're doing that.
I feel like I'm quoting something. I feel like I'm like, it's bothering me now. Oh, you know what I'm doing? I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
Oh, it's so fucking stupid.
I believe it.
I'm doing the whole Nathan thing.
You're literally the whole Nathan.
Yes, Nathan.
Oh.
It's the exact same cadence. Mason. Anyways, mystery solved.
Mason uses some slappers, two slappers, to take on the Batman. Of course, he tosses like a mini satellite dish at him, and then he's basically.
This is just like a drug amateur move right here to just like be reliant on it too quickly for everything.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and he's going to pay for that later. So then we have like this great mid-sentence transition. So the thieves get away, but Terry's identified him. She's like, "Who?" Bruce is on the other end saying, any idea who the thieves were? Says, yes, his name's. And we just cut mid as he's about to say Mason to Chelsea running after him. Mason.
Dude, that was a fun cut.
So it's the next day, and this is something to highlight here. Obviously, where a lot of focus is on Terry and the Batman stuff and everything that's going on there. But you know what? For the PSA of it all, I think I identified. I felt bad for this Mason kid.
You know what? I'm glad you bring that up because I do too. Especially like I feel like the animation on how haggard he's looking. It's like I don't know. I feel like maybe the episode could have been a little bit more centrally focused on him to really pull out the effect. But no, I think what we get is really good.
The honestly, the qualm I have with the episode is it feels like there are two deleted scenes in this episode that are missing. One being the resolution to we should get Mason some help, and the other one being like we solving the Terry problem, which it feels like we're missing something between scenes. But we'll get there when we get there. Point being, but I do like that we see Mason. He's kind of going through some withdrawal, very noticeably, and I think he's dating Chelsea at the time, and she's showing some concern, and he snaps at her. I like that we take a moment to show. He's not just a jerk or anything. He does regret it. Like, I think there's some sympathy for this kid going on.
Sure.
So then his fellow jocks, they come up to him. The idea is they cashed in the stolen goods, and Mason being kind of the team captain kind of guy here, he does the drug deal itself, and you see his hands are shaking. And I love my favorite bit of animation in all of this episode is I love the unspoken looks of concern that are kind of like in this episode where like you see the hesitation after he does it. It's like, oh boy, our guy's a little shaky.
Right, like the team is just doing it to purely for the edge, purely for the title winning edge. But Mason, he's kind of dipping a little further, and they can tell that.
Because there's a lot of pressure. I'm assuming he's a team captain as well. There's a lot of pressure.
Also, I don't know. I just love how sketchy the fancy car pulling up and the window just cracking open is. It's a very sketchy drug exchange.
Well, not just sketchy, Tiki. The big takeaway here, this is our huge PSA scene. This is the thing. This is literally the scene designed to reach out to the kiddies. This is the scene where we show Tiki. The thing how edgy this is. We've just shown a legit drug deal on essentially a Saturday morning cartoon.
More or less, yeah.
Essentially, I mean, again,
do you think the fact that it wasn't just like physical cash was the only thing that got away with it?
Well, no, I think they got away with it because the drug itself was like
that's true. That's true.
Again, that's the whole. It's like the robot rule, Tiki. So long as it's not something you can really do. That's the thing. So long as it's not something you can really do, and like
you could just invent like the most fucked up super drug, but it'd be fine.
Exactly. That's the logic. That's literally the only reason to get away with it. So
introduce you to a drug called sativa, or I'm sorry, not sativa. What am I saying? Salvia. Salvia is some fucked up shit, dude. That's the
What?
most fucked up drug on the planet.
Oh,
Anyways.
okay. Anyway,
Oh,
point being, it's a nice kind of wake up call for like this is the kids. Like kids don't do what this kid's doing here because Terry disapproves, and we like Terry. So anyway, so Terry, I like the investigative instincts on Terry here. He's kind of tracking Mason from afar, not in the costume, just from afar in high school. He's bearing witness here. And again, Mason's going full addict here. He just instant moment he gets that drug, he slaps it on and he walks off because he needs it for the withdrawal. Like he's not using it for the game right now. He's just using it so he can actually get like some pep back into his step, which is not what he should
and
do.
then Terry is concerned.
Yes.
It's just basically like a telltale caption. Terry is concerned.
Okay, meanwhile, the Batman in costume, after this, he's investigating Mason's locker, and he uses, like, I think essentially the equivalent to a skeleton key, but it's kind of in a futurized card form. He kind of used a little a hacker key. And then he used, like, a little flashlight, little homage to classic BTAS. Very nice. Using a little flashlight. And then he's attacked by the coach in full-on highlight gear. His future highlight gear, blitzball gear, whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
Anyway, so he's I think the idea is this coach has been waiting to beat the crap out of a younger guy. I think that's kind of the idea here.
Kind of like Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico kind of vibes.
Sure. Anyway, so he knocks Batman, and this is a really cool set piece. You being Mr. Fighty Fighter, how did you feel about the set piece here?
It's cool.
It knocks him into the highlight course that are hovering. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I eat punks like you for breakfast. And then we have, I like that there's a weakness to our venomized athletes here. Playing bad guys. Go for the legs. Always go for the tiny legs on these guys. So basically, Batman here, he grapples using the grappling line built in the suit. He wraps around the coach's legs and he swings him around and scores a goal.
I mean, I got to be honest with you, Dragon. That's like the reason I don't have much to say about it is like, yeah, it's a cool setting. It's just that fight scene is like, it's barely even a set piece.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Sorry to spoil your appetite, a little cutesy Batman line there. Okay, so then we get into the drama.
So the drama.
Yes, so the drama. And with Ron Stubble, nonetheless. So,
yes.
Terry returns home at night. So it's a late night for Terry. So again, this is the usual thing going on here. And I like there's some hypocrisy here that it's late at night, yet Maddie is allowed to stay up. And, big deal for Terry, though. It's like Maddie wants to see Terry get in trouble. It's really all he's doing, right? Anyway, so Terry's late and he's in trouble, and apparently the mother got a call from the school that he's been sleeping in class again. Maddie's like, oh, he's been doing like little brother stuff. Like he's been kissing Dana. Let me show you the little trouble notes he can sign. We can all bask in how the older brother's in trouble. And of course, in doing so, we put Terry in a very tricky spot as we're into the actual drama of the PSA here.
Yeah, before we get into the drama, I just want to quickly say,
Sure.
like every time Maddie shows up, I do think he is just the perfect, like, annoying kid brother in a 90s show archetype.
Yep. Oh, sure.
He is just like that archetype personified, and I love it. All right, anyways.
All right, so Mary discovered Terry Garr's doing a really good job here as Mary McGinnis. I take maybe I don't know if I can take issue with the writing, but I don't know if it's characterization. The point being, Mary discovers
this is absolutely the biggest episode for her so far.
So far, yes.
At least I would say even, and it all more or less comes down to this scene, and then a little bit at the end.
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot with Mary in the show, but you're right. This is for her a shining moment. No question. So Mary discovers Slappers, and she knows that Terry's withholding information because he's being real dodgy about, I was running into Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, I mean, like the whole, like, it's not mine, I'm holding it for someone. That is literally the oldest excuse in the book when it comes to drugs. That is like the dog ate my homework of drugs.
That's true. However, I do like, though, just like, Terry is not lying when he says, I found that in the locker room.
Yeah, he's not. He's very much not.
So that's the thing. I think there's, I found this in the locker room. Matt's not helping the situation right now, of course, by basically saying, oh, yeah, he's lying. Like, come on, man. That's not helping me right now. And Terry gets grounded. I think unfairly, honestly. I think it's a little unfair Terry gets grounded because he did find that in the locker room, man. I think Terry's earned a lot of goodwill, but here's the interesting thing about the episode, though, in terms of the arc of the series and arc of Terry McGinnis series, that Terry's response to this argument is, I think
Yes.
it shows progress for his character from Rebirth. In Rebirth Part 1, when he gets into it with his father, with Warren, he's really like letting him have it. And he's saying they're saying some stuff to each other, and there's some regrets there. I think Terry has learned from that loss of like, I should be more patient with my folks. And the tragedy is that Mary, it's a very sad situation here. The mother instantly thinks the worst of Terry because of his juvenile delinquency in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rather unfair to Terry here, and we know obviously the audience know Terry's on the up and up, but even so, it's the fact that his mother would jump to the worst instinct because of his past versus the way he's doing right by everybody now. And he's kind of become the man of the house and everything now. That's really sad.
So to me, this actually kind of like illustrates probably the biggest moral complication and fork in the road with the Bruce Wayne stuff so far, because like, the Dana stuff, I actually think Atomic Beast has a rock solid point about the Dana stuff. He says, to be fair, it would be awful if Dana broke up with a guy who's trying to support his family after the death of his father. Atomic Beast, absolutely fair point, 100%.
Yep.
But I do think that this is a legitimately shitty position that Bruce Wayne put Terry in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And that's the thing. It's again something it's something that Bruce has never had to deal with before because he's always taken in these kids. He's been the de facto father to these boys. He's never had to like send them to their own. In the comics,
but of course, Dragon. I would say I would wait her to say like maybe the Great Conroy moment here is the whole thing. Like, I don't do moms, basically.
Well, I wouldn't pull that out of context like that. But we'll
sure.
We'll get to the proper. Anyway, but yes, you're right. I agree.
That is a very terrible thing to say out of context.
Yeah, that's the thing. We do have I think you're right. It is the Great Conroy line, but we'll get there. Anyway, I do. That's the thing, though. So I mean, with the exception of Tim Drake in the comics, because that was like the only time a Robin did have a home life. That was like the only time in the comics, and then the animated series, they kind of mixed Tim Drake and Jason Todd, so you kind of had the best of both worlds there. Regardless, it is, it's new ground for Bruce Wayne to circumnavigate, which is kind of the fun of Batman Beyond, where you have basically a Batman with a home life and with a man with parents, essentially, who had parents and was with a mother right now and trying to support his family.
Right.
Anyway, so we're
definitely some dodgy stuff, very interesting moral complexity there.
Yeah. So we're in the Batcave, and Terry explains his dilemma to Bruce, who was like studying the one of the slappers that Terry sneaked away. And even after he's in trouble, he had to sneak out one of those little patches out of that thing the mother probably
right.
So yeah. So anyway, then we have the great Conroy line here where he says like, "Arch criminals, I know how to handle. Mothers or something else." Now,
oh yeah,
it's a reason. I think the reason it's the great Conroy, Tiki, as you're saying, is there's some tragedy in that funny line that only Kevin Conroy could.
Oh, absolutely. There's a tragedy in that line. Of course there is. Yeah.
There's one, it is funny. It's just him saying, "Mothers, don't give me that. That's something else." But it's the fact that, again...
Unless your mom happens to be named Martha.
Yes, obviously.
All right, I'm sorry. I saw the opening.
I know. I guess I was hopeful that maybe... No, but seriously, though, it's really sad when you look at the life of Bruce Wayne, where it's like, mother's like, I wish I knew how to handle that situation. I never had a chance, or it's like, there's some sadness in that line.
I mean, I would say just parental guidance in general, not just, not just motherly, but just in general. Like it's just something in his life he does not really know how to handle. I feel like that's gotten him in hot water before with some of the Robins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you look at the series now, even without knowing all the details of what happened in the interim years, because again, they were a little vague on the details with how exactly the Bat family dissolved over the years. I don't want to get you nitty gritty and like extended comic stuff or anything. The point being, we don't know what happened. I think it just stems from the fact that because of Bruce kind of growing up without his parents, and only Alfred was like the best influence you could ever have. So not the poo and Alfred at all here, but it's the fundamental fact that Bruce Wayne was probably not, despite his attempts, probably not a great father. He's a flawed father at the very least, and in doing so, that probably alienated a lot of the Bat family, and most likely they kind of assumed as you saw in Old Wounds, which again the writer of that episode did this episode. Him alienating Dick Grayson because again there was a flawed father figure. I think that's definitely something that's in the room there.
Sure.
Okay, so they then now Tiki, we have the slideshow.
Oh yes, oh
We're in
yes.
the back cave because we can't do it over the phone. We can never do it over the phone. We're in the back cave. And
Once again, that's another thing that like 2023 actually like passed this show on technology wise.
yeah, no, for sure. So basically, we exposit here that slappers are basically a futurized, kind of a more mass-produced version of Venom from Batman the Animated Series, and only one man ever knew the formula, which is Bane. And Terry's heard of Bane a little bit, and well, you're gonna meet him tonight. So, well, as long as I'm home by 9. What? I'm on a schedule now.
Oh,
I'm in trouble. I gotta be home by 9. Anyway, so so it's been 20 years since Bane left prison. I don't know if that means it probably means he escaped prison. He's been laying low, and Bruce has been keeping tabs on him since 20 years ago. Is like when he's in the Batman Beyond suit, by the way. So it's like probably in those years he's probably kept tabs on whatever the last Bane story was that we, the audience, did not see. And the implication is, yeah, Bane's been he's basically bought his own private island somewhere, and he's he was formidable in his day. And then we have Terry with the line of the episode. Come on, he's like a zillion years old. What kind of trouble can an old geezer? And he looks at.
I mean, he's really right on the money, honestly.
He is, but still, saying this to, I love how unintentionally insulting he is here.
Right.
How much trouble could an old geezer? And he says, "Oh, right, sorry." It's just very funny. Anyway, yeah. So he's infiltrates the island, a little few stealth takedowns here and there. And we reveal, Bigger, you're expecting to see Bane in all his glory, or kind of like a kind of a Bond-looking villain, perhaps Bane
like
in
kind
reality.
of like Ricardo Montalban vibes, maybe.
Oh, don't tease me with that, Tika. I always dreamed of Ricardo Montalban.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, so you enter and you see it's basically Bane, more like Hector Salamanca, only no bell.
Yeah, almost, pretty much, yeah.
So we see basically Bane, who is an utter shadow of his formerly imposing and formidable self. He is not like a huge hulking.
And this really is just the anti-drug PSA of the episode right here. Like, this is it.
This, like anyone, especially anyone using steroids.
Oh God, Dragon! You remember that one horrifying PSA where it's like it shows like all the glamorous sides of smoking, and then it's like the one guy who's like, "But the reality is, you could end up looking like this." You remember that?
I think all the PSAs are terrifying, but I think so.
It started out with like the Joe Camel, and then like the Vegas stuff, and then it cuts to just that one guy in the hospital. Ooh,
I
that
think
still
so.
Gets to me.
Anyway, so we learned that years on his
Atomic Beast. Do you remember that commercial? I'm curious. Anyways, sorry.
Okay, so we introduce the caretaker here. Caretaker Jackson is two P's Chapel or Chappelle?
I think it would probably be Chappelle, I would guess.
That's the thing.
I think so Chapel is 1P.
That's what I thought. So you have Jackson Chapel here. Sorry, Chappelle. And is it Chappelle with the H? Is that how
Dragon? I don't know. I think we're.
Well, I'm saying you're the big Chappelle show, guys. Why I'm asking.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't endorse current day Dave Chappelle. Don't throw that shit at me. I'm sorry.
Well, I meant fine. Past whatever.
Yes, and past Dave Chappelle is great. Current day Dave Chappelle, not so much. Just to put the record out there, all right?
Fine. You're pulling the rip.
Full disclosure on that.
All right, fine. Anyway, point being, this guy here, Jackson, he's he's a caretaker of Bane. He basically tells us that the years of Venom use, this is the cost of years of all the Venom use, which in the comics is why periodically Bane would kind of wean himself off the stuff because he would become too dependent on it. I guess I like to think Batman Beyond had somewhat of an impact on that, but then again, it was kind of throughout the 90s he would kind of wean himself off it here and there. So I don't know, but the idea this is what would happen if he did not wean himself off is a really heady idea.
Dragon, I would love to see like a Blinky 500 fan film of the Tom Hardy Bane in this condition.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be interesting?
I mean, it would be.
I know what Notarelli's going to say, like, give me the money, baby. But you know what I mean?
You'd say something more classic. You fund it, I'll film it.
Right, exactly. But
give me the money, baby. Give me the money. Just give like a cigar while you're at. Give me the money, baby.
Oh God. I don't know. I could just see him like him in particular really pulling that off.
He's like,
Anyways.
Lindsay, come in here, say the word. Give me
Oh,
another. Anyway, so we have. So basically, we have this. We just see Bane just completely drained, and he's practically in a vegetative state in a wheelchair. Like his eyes are gone completely white. He's in like this wheelchair in the corner of a room. And yeah, I think the logic is the withdrawal of the venom is like basically it's withdrawal that gets magnified once you're off the steroid that is making your body so strong. So it's like an atrophy. Your body is atrophied to the point where you have to be in a wheelchair. I think that's the logic.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have a new mystery of Bane's not making it. Who the heck's making all the venom?
Someone who's not really that great of a villain reveal, honestly.
All right, well, we'll get
I would have rather it was just Bane.
All right, so
Dragon, you know what I can say to that?
What?
It was his mistake. Because the twist reminds me of that kind of.
Do you really think there's that much of a connect to that?
Well, just in the fact that it's kind of like the coach kind of figure. I don't know. Not really. Anyways.
So the coach is chewing Mason out during the game because he's on with, because again, the Batman confiscated those drugs. So
I'm just saying I'm sorry, I have to lean on this for a second. It is not a very good mystery because the coach is like the one guy who's like been the most adamantly pro drugs the whole time. So
yeah, unofficially, but yeah.
I don't know, Dragon. It is the one thing about the episode where I do feel like the mystery could have been a little bit cooler, or they could have, like, what if it was like the Mad Hatter or something like that? I don't know. Maybe that's just like the fanfic side of me, like kind of, you know, I like, or connected to the Mad Hatter or something at least. You know what I mean?
Tiki, the Mad Hatter's nothing to do with super strength, though. I don't know about that.
But he has a lot to do with drugs.
I mean, well, yeah, but not in Batman the Animated Series, though. He's always technology in the animated series.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, what about Scarecrow or something? I don't know.
Well, it's not really that scary, though. That's the thing.
But it's drugs. All right.
Well, taking drugs because it's drugs isn't necessarily the best reason. Just because it's drugs.
It could have come from a plant. Poison ivy. All right, I'm done. I am just kind of stretching it at this point.
Okay. So, yeah, point being, Mason's not doing well with the withdrawal right now. He just needs it to basically function at this point. And they need more slappers.
I have been there, Mason.
So they need more slappers to replace the ones that Batman stole, and thankfully, you know, they one of them stole the credit cards from the credits from home, and they set up a new drug deal. Then honestly, so Batman interrupts his drug deal, and he fires old Tracer on the fancy car that pulls.
Okay, I love Batman interrupting the drug deal, Dragon. That to me is one of the most fucking badass Batman moments ever. Honestly,
really?
I don't know why.
Yeah,
it just really goes into like the real world Batman heroics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be? That's what I'm saying, man. This is me as a kid. This would have elated me as well. I guess I don't know. I saw it, but I was always going to other stuff with Batman Beyond. This is as a drug PSA. This moment is great. Like Batman versus drugs.
I mean, it is absolutely like that moment within this episode, right?
That's the cool thing about this episode. Again, because we have the safety of its slappers, we can show Batman actually foiling a drug deal in which we don't have to say
very much so. Very much so. This is exactly what it would look like if it was any sort of other drug deal. Yes.
So Batman the Animated Series, the closest we could ever get away with that was just saying, okay, these mobsters deal in drugs, but we can't show the drugs or the drug deal actually happening. Maybe sometimes very vaguely an amorphous case that may or may not contain drugs in it. Maybe.
So I love how desperately, the kid is just like, no, wait, come back.
The desperation on Mason is heartbreaking.
Yeah,
now, here's where we get into the missed opportunity episode for me.
Okay.
So we have this moment that really intrigued me, where okay, so after that, you see the shadow of Batman.
Yeah. Okay. I think you and I are kind of both on the same page here, Dragon. I feel like there could have been a little bit more of a, I don't even know how they would have played it, if it would have been more of a stern talking to or more sympathetic, but I was genuinely curious how Terry was going to play that moment.
Well, that's the thing. It just feels like we're missing two scenes in this episode, and this is the one. I think this is the big scene we're missing, which is like, hey, Batman's probably going to get this kid some help or be compassionate to this kid.
Right, for
Use
sure.
desperation on him, which again would have probably made for a really good scene as well. But I think simply there wasn't time in the episode.
Yeah.
So, okay, so following that, Batman has a trace on the car. He basically goes to the where the drugs are being manufactured, which is this is really I love the logistics of this whole drug trade. By the way, is the idea it's in the abandoned Gotham Herald newspaper. The where the
And I
news
will
goes.
say this makes for a really good set piece with all the
Yeah.
rolling machinery and everything.
And the idea that they're using the printing presses to mass produce the papers, the paper that the slappers go on, that's really clever.
For sure.
And of course, the abandoned paper mill. Who reads newspapers anymore? Again, calling out the future for where we go there. All right, let's see. So again, the printing press drug idea, very clever. Then we have like our big bad guy saying no deliveries thanks to Batman. Then we have this really great honestly the running gag with Terry McGinnis throughout the show is Terry McGinnis has like kind of like James Bond entrances in which he enters and he has like a quippy line.
Yeah, I can see
You'll see that when we do the movie big. They give him a full Bond entrance in the movie, but so the idea is like he always kind of has these bits here where somebody mentioned my name. It's like
right.
That's the fact. This is a Batman with style. Not all serious and all stoic. He comes in there, he's having a little fun with it. Our Batman.
So this sorry, yeah. So this fight, Dragon. This is a really good fight, just because I love the stakes and the escalation at play with the actual drugs.
Yeah. So one, I love that Batman's like dropping these giant rolls of paper on. That's already cool. Then we reveal. So in the end, Bane was needed Venom period to keep going, much like Mason. So we're drawing the connection there. Like Mason, had he kept going, he would have ended up like Bane. So there's your drug connect for the kids watching the episode. And he couldn't make it himself anymore, so he basically had his caretaker Jackson Chappelle here doing the making it for him. So this point being, this reveals this guy pretty much like who's the other guy next to Bane who's
right. It's pretty damn obvious. Yeah.
But given we don't have any other suspects, that's the thing. It's kind of like it was either him or the coach. It was a 50-50 shot. And the coach, let's face it, the coach is not smart enough to run a drug operation. You've seen this guy.
And to be fair, the coach was what I was kind of alluding to with the whole, that was his mistake. Like, I feel like if it would have been the coach, it would have been like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think there's only so much they could do, and they need
right.
We need somebody who can be a younger Bane fill-in here. So Chappelle did not seem
I think I would have preferred the coach, to be honest. I feel like it would have been a little bit more real-world hard-hitting because real coaches do that shit.
Honestly, here's the thing I completely forgot about until the rewatch of the episode. I assumed the coach was on the slappers when he was fighting.
Right.
That was not the case, though. At least it's implied. That's the thing. You're right. I think the truth's somewhere in the middle, Tiki. Where even so, he should have been using the slappers and perhaps been working together with this guy, and he would have been the muscle, perhaps.
Sure. Sure.
Like if Jackson were supplying him directly, but then again, it would have had a whole thing. Why were they buying the drugs if the coach had a direct line? So obviously, the reason that wouldn't have worked. Anyway, we have fight here. I like that. The little design thing to point out Batman Beyond with the villains a lot of the time. You'll notice a kind of a sleek thing they're doing here, where Jackson's outfit here, he's wearing something that's kind of akin to Bane, but not like the full Bane costume. He's wearing like the kind of a like a tank top with like kind of like a shine to it. So in the future, what they do a lot of the time is like you have bad guys wearing black. They give them kind of like a sleek, kind of futurized look of like, this is just kind of like the black look on them. It's a little design nod they kind of note when we get into the future.
Totally.
In the future. So basically he slaps on a bunch of slappers and he goes to fight him. And I think the coolest thing, and I don't know if the comics and the media and everything were influenced by this episode or not. I think the coolest thing about the slappers is it solves the age-old Bane kryptonite problem of like, every time you have a Bane Batman fight, what's the one way Batman defeats him all the time? Well, he throws a battering and he cuts the tubes or he pulls the tube out of Bane's head. So what's the solution to that? slaps it on. He can't take that off.
Right.
And then that's the thing. I think you had the slappers here, which is like the first time we ever. This might have been the first time we ever like came up with a new way of delivering the venom, that aside from the pill form it was first introduced in. And then we do stuff like injections years later. So it's kind of like that's how we get rid of the tube problem. Anyway, so we had some fight here. Is like Terry tries brute strength, but it's a
like I said,
time.
I do think that the fighty fight is like really well captured, just because like the escalation naturally at play with how the drugs are taking hold of him. It is pretty intense, I think.
Yeah.
That mixed with the with the machinery.
Yeah, like Terry's punching him, he gets backhanded into the car, and he's dodging like a wall punch, and then he goes for his legs, like the only move he has. He goes for his goes for his tiny legs. goes for the legs, and then we have this brutal neck crunch where he's grabbed every time Terry's neck gets grabbed in this show. I'm like, yeesh. Again, they could never get away with that in the old show, but wow. And he just headbutts the guy to get out of that. And then we have like he's grabbing a pipe to defend himself, and the guy almost like spears him with it. And then we have him climbing the printing press, which is great. So he Ebola wraps him, no dice. He climbs the printing press, and he's like ripping the railing out of the wall, and he throws a batarang, which turns the printing press on, and the guy gets flipped over the other side. And this is where we get into the heady, scary thing. Mm-hmm. Falls onto what the machinery printed out, which is a whole bunch of slappers. So they're adhering onto his body. So now we had like 5 on there or more.
Right, and this is where we get into the pure kind of like almost Clayface style body horror.
And also, again, I think there are shades of the first Bane episode. Remember, the end of the Bane episode, he very, very dangerously and very scarily was overdosing on venom after Batman jammed something in the dispersal device. So it's like, yeah, this is kind of like a more drug.
Oh dear.
So yeah, so he's bulking up. You're right, he's very Clayface. He's bulking up, very huge muscles where he can barely touch his face after Batman throws a batarang and blinds him for a bit, like yo, and they're fighting around, and he thinks he's down. Then he comes back, and he's basically blinds him to the point where he blows himself up by hitting around rampant chemicals, and boom. God knows what happens to him when the dust clears. Bruce is asking what's happening, and he's comatose. The guy's like pretty much a vegetable.
Dragon, do we have a Terry get out of here?
No.
In here anywhere? No? You checked?
I made sure. Nope.
Okay, because if there was anywhere in the episode, it'd be here.
Yep, all he says is Terry. He says,
right.
McGinnis, you're Terry. Get out of there. He doesn't say that. All right. So he's out of it. It's quite scary.
He's not actually dead though, right?
No, he's very alive. He's just again the irony is
pretty much like a censorship. It's like the closest thing we could possibly show to a dead body.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's more so for the PSA Connect. We have 2 lines. One, he had too much of a bad thing, which is a good line, good for the kids.
That is a goddamn good drug PSA line, man.
Yeah, too much of a bad thing. And then I think the connect there is that he's kind of comatose and out of it like the real elderly Bane is. So I think because of all the venom use, there's the connect that this guy might have a doomed fate like that guy right now. Because he's overdosing a whole bunch of venom. All right, so then we have kind of our then we have the after school school special portion of the episode.
Honestly thought this was super charming. I'm not gonna lie.
I was wondering how you were going to respond.
I liked it.
Okay, so
I liked it mostly just because I like seeing Bruce Wayne interacting with the family. So I'll take any of that I can get.
Yeah, this is the last time that's going to happen, by the way.
God damn it! Really?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we'll keep an eye out for it, but I'm pretty sure. That's
actually a little discouraging.
If it happens.
Because I honestly kind of thought this was like a good kind of like, we're getting some nice development between Bruce Wayne and the rest of the family.
I know. It's the thing I always
that's a little frustrating, Dragon. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce will be talking about the family, but he'll never really be like, saying
but he'll never be there.
That's the thing. I'm pretty sure he's never.
That's cryptic.
I could be wrong, but I am fairly certain he never shares another scene with the family again. So it's 9:00. So technically, Terry's not late. By the way, that kind of bothers me in the scene. So Terry enters. I know I'm late, but you're not going to be mad. Oh, really? Why? And we revealed Mr. When this is what I'm saying. We only happens twice in the pilot in this episode, but I love that Bruce Wayne comes in, and my God, Bruce Wayne knows how to charm everybody when he milks that old man charm. He walks it entirely my fault, Mr. Yes, again, the great Conroy, my friend, not in the big line sense, but just in like look at how
absolutely.
smooth
Yeah,
he makes
yeah,
it look.
yeah.
Just walks in there and see he plays Grumpy Bruce pretty much for the duration of the show, but giving him moments like this where he just walks in, entirely my fault, Mrs. McGinnis. I just thought we'd get the test results from the clinic. Now, here's the other deleted scene of the episode that kind of bugs me when I look back on it. Like, man, we really skipped over the whole like.
Yeah,
I
we
want
really
you
didn't
tested.
establish that. Yeah,
We didn't establish that at all.
right.
We didn't have time. I feel like we didn't have time in the episode. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. And in that respect, it definitely does feel a little bit drug PSA-y, like after school special, like more so than other bits in the episode.
That's the thing, yeah.
But I don't know. Again, I really like the interaction though.
No, I agree with you. I do. I think it's a really well acted scene, but it does feel structured very much like. And here's the after school special,
right.
The kids, everyone's good, and like the mother's not gonna. And also, it's the show that the mother's not gonna have a very negative opinion of Terry. That's the main reason it's in there. So let's see. So Mary, I do think Mary got off way too easy. She doesn't say I'm sorry at all, by the way. I just want to be very clear about this. She's oh, thank goodness. She's like, you could say I'm sorry for rushing to judgment on you, Terry, when you told the truth and you've now been vindicated. There's no I'm sorry. There's just like, oh, thank goodness.
Right.
That I gotta admit, rewatching that cheeses me off a little. It's like, really? Anyway, so then on the news, the athletes and the coach, they're being arrested. And again, that kind of robs us of that one deleted scene with Mason that I'm not saying actually is a deleted scene. It's the fact of like, okay, so the harsh reality is that Mason gets arrested. He's not getting, at least not immediately getting help. That's kind of a shame, but he did do bad stuff. He did rob a place, so that there's consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a judge will, like recommend a rehab program or something. One could hope. So Mary's like, we have again Conroy, not necessarily the great Conroy. We have a good Conroy moment here where Mary's like teeing up the question, like, why would the coach condone this? Because he wanted to win at any cost.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So he did he basically did it any way he could. So again, Bruce is kind of coming in there with the moral, and I love that Terry has slipped through the moral.
A little bit, yeah.
The moral. And this is really sweet, man. I love it's a moment that Terry's never going to know about, but just, like Mary says, Mary's about to wake him up, and Bruce says, no, it's all right. He's had a busy night, and he gives him a little smile, and he leaves. And then
and like I said, Dragon, it feels like it should be the start of an arc, and it's not, and that's frustrating. Yeah, that's whatever.
Well, we'll have plenty of his family, just not Bruce in that same scene, but it's nice.
All right. Well, I will say, going through this episode, I probably would put it number 2 behind Shriek. I don't think it's as good as Shriek, but I still think it's pretty damn good. I think especially for, a drug PSA, it's got a lot going for it. It's got some really strong action set pieces, some good moral implications, some good Bruce Wayne interactions. I think this is a really good one.
Yeah, real quick, Tom Beast, he mentioned, funny if Bane continued and basically continued after all the improving the Venom and everything after he was beaten by Superman at nighttime. That's a really good point.
Right.
Because the idea, how did Batman beat me that one? Because he has no idea that was Superman. He's thinking Batman beat the crap out of me. I got to perfect this Venom, man. Something's off. But yeah, so this episode, this is a solid episode. It's a great drug PSA. When I look back on the kind of the PSA comments in which, man, that really did put a lot of good out there. I thought that's really
totally.
I think it was really worthwhile in that regard. When I look back on it by the same token, I do see some weaknesses in terms of like we are missing kind of some elements in this episode. Nothing that really hurts it, but just stuff that it feels like we shortchanged two story. We had missed opportunities, but it's not the end of the world. Worst case, this episode would have been like a real gimmicky, like we remember Bane from the 90s. We're still technically at the tail end of the 90s. You know what we gotta do? We gotta Hulk some people out. 90s style, but in the future.
And that's
Yeah,
not where we went. Yeah.
yeah, we gotta go the full Eifeld. But we
All
didn't do
right.
that. Could have very easily been that, and it wasn't, and we had something to say about it, and we found a clever way of bringing back the old Batman villains without having them be like, hey, you remember that Batman villain? Well, here he is, but in the future. We didn't do that. That's pretty darn good.
Okay. Well said. So what's the next one? Cue us up.
The Mind's Eye, Gone Awry, Hypnosis Hijinks, Terry McGinnis on a game show. Can our new Batman outfox a rogue with a familiar MO? Will sanity and credibility disappear? Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to Batcave Beyond with Spellbound. Come on, give me something. I don't know. I don't know the lines here.
Come on, Slappy. I'm right here. Come on, Slappy.